At 6 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order if Phil can lead us in prayer.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, God, we thank you for this day. Thank you for the beautiful weather you've granted us, God. Tonight, Lord, I ask you to go with us into this meeting. Lord, please grant us the knowledge and wisdom we need to make the best decisions we can on behalf of the city of Cumming. Lord, please bless our citizens, our employees, and our elected officials, God. Just bind us all together, Lord, we may always pull in the direction together for the city of Cumming. And God, I just ask you this special request, Lord, to be with the city family that's hurting so bad at the loss of one of our own, and just be with her family, Lord, and all those that were so horribly affected by this tragedy. God, I just pray that you would move in the lives of each one for the need that they have. Now go with us, lead, guide, and direct us. These many favors and blessings I ask in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Everyone to join us in a pledge of the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we need to consider the agenda for adoption. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Please vote. Motion carries 4-0. Item 5, we need to adopt the meeting minutes from February 18th, 2024. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Please vote. Motion carries 4-0. Next, we have a proclamation. Whereas colorectal cancer is the second leading cause of cancer death among men and women combined in the United States, and whereas colorectal cancer almost always develops from precancerous polyps in the colon or rectum, and whereas screening tests can discover precancerous polyps so that they can be removed before they turn into cancer, and screenings can also find colorectal cancer early when treatment works best, and whereas everyone aged 45 to 75 should get screened for colorectal cancer, the U.S. Preventative Task Force recommends screenings begin at age 45, while those with a family history of this type of cancer should begin at age 40. And whereas anyone who believes they may be at an increased risk should learn their family history and ask their doctor if they should begin screenings before age 45. And whereas millions of people in the U.S. are not getting screened as recommended, which can result in missing the chance to prevent colorectal cancer or to find it early when treatment is most likely to lead to a cure. Now, therefore, I, Troy Brumbelow, Mayor of the City of Cumming, do hereby issue this proclamation declaring March 2025 as Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month in the City of Cumming. You're very welcome. Yep, go right ahead.
Mayor Brumbelow and members of the council, thank you once again very much for recognizing this month as Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. We appreciate your partnership. We've done this several years in a row. I serve as the Chief Operating Officer at GI North. We have our main clinic here, an endoscopy center, a pathology lab, and a total of 4 clinics. We again greatly appreciate your partnership. You're also going to be lighting the water tower right across from our office on Deputy Bill Cantrell Memorial Road here over this weekend, I believe. There's a lot that I could say, but more importantly, I'm going to turn it over to a person who is not only a patient of ours, but also a stage 4 colorectal cancer survivor. And I think she has some things to say that would be much more meaningful than anything I could say.
Awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, so I reached out a month or so back to Crystal and asked about you guys doing this for the colorectal cancer community, and appreciate and definitely appreciate that GI North has, I think, beat me to the punch this year, and probably has done it every other year. But just as a stage 4 survivor, so I was diagnosed at the age of 47. Ended up right across the road here at Northside Forsyth. Was cared for by GI North and Northside Hospital and lots of other great doctors in the community. And, you know, the rise in colorectal cancer is kind of alarming. I was just in Washington, D.C. last week, helping a group plant 27,400 flags, blue flags, across the National Mall. That represents the number of people under the age of 50 that will be diagnosed with colorectal cancer by the year 2030. So prevention is key, awareness and understanding is key. We met with members of Congress to ask for funding within the Department of Defense's congressionally directed medical research program. And with the state of things in the government these days, not sure what will get done. Also recently spoke at the Georgia House at a committee meeting to get additional funding for an awareness program being developed by another organization. So just appreciate that you guys are, you know, taking this to heart and putting this as a, you know, for the city of Cumming to recognize it as important. It's a little thing that we can do that means a lot to people who are survivors and fighters today. So I appreciate the
Thank you
time.
very much.
Thank you so
We're
much.
happy to do it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So next, we have old business, item A, planning and zoning. Item 1, variance request 4292 for 302 Patterson Street, public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Before you open the hearing, I would like to read the staff report into the record. One of our planning commissioners had to recuse from the vote on this variance, and given the nature of the variance requested, it was my determination that the consideration of this application is in the public interest. Therefore, I'm transferring the decision from the planning commission to the mayor and council. The agent has made application on behalf of the property owner for multiple variances to a parcel located at 302 Patterson Street, which is zoned single-family residential, R1A. Granting one variance would increase the residential density of this property to that of a multiple-family R3 lot. Several other dimensional variance reductions range from 34% to 70%. In accordance with Section 113-50 of the zoning ordinances, these variances are not de minimis. Failing to grant them would not create an unnecessary hardship or deprive the applicant of rights commonly employed by other property owners in the same area. There are no extraordinary or exceptional conditions pertaining to this piece of property warranting these variances. Granting these variances would not be in harmony with the purpose and intent of the R1A zoning district and could be detrimental to the general welfare of the neighborhood, including the adjacent property owners' values. In fact, granting these variances will allow construction resulting in what would be detached townhome multifamily product in the middle of a single-family detached home neighborhood. So for the above-mentioned reasons, the staff recommends denial of the variances as requested. I'll try to answer any questions before you open the hearing.
Any questions for Scott? We have a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Please vote. Motion carries 4-0. Anyone that'd like to speak in favor?
Good evening, Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. Ethan Underwood with the firm of Underwood Scoggins. We are representing Miguel Angel Granados on these variance requests. I hope you will forgive the formality, but we do have to be a little more formal on this one because we have a respectful disagreement with the staff's interpretation of the hardships. With that, I would like to tender, maybe best to the city attorney, copies of title records and also of our presentation. This is quite a unique situation, but I think it makes sense that we combine these hearings so that we're looking at all three lots together. All properties are zoned R1A. They are dwelling single family. There would be no attached units that are proposed, but the variances have become necessary to exhaust administrative remedies. We do have to reserve our rights. We did file a constitutional objections letter with this application. We have to object on issues of takings grounds, due process, and equal protection. Our client's position is he has what's called vested rights. A lot of folks call it grandfathering, but these lots have been platted since 1955. And because of that, the city planning department has refused to recognize the boundaries that were established in 1955. Our position is, frankly, we don't need these variances, but we have to exhaust our administrative remedies in the event that we can't reach an agreement on this. We do feel that our client has standing in this matter. Again, stated that we believe these lot sizes are vested, and therefore the variances are not technically required, but we're going through the process to bring it into current conformity with your current version of your code. Again, we're filing to exhaust administrative remedies, and we're hopeful that we can reach an agreement, but otherwise we reserve all of our claims at law and in equity. So why do we need this? We've had to ask for 5 variances on what we call the center lot, and then we've had to ask for 3 variances along the northern and southern lots. This is the property just south of City Park, and you can see there is a kind of a smorgasbord of lot sizes in this area. You can see some of the lots down further to the south. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but I guess it's the one where it says C26019. Those are similar in size to what our client asserts their size of their property should be. But then there's some others that have been combined. This is the result of folks that were combining lots from 1955 on to the present day. Our client, we've searched the title record, and I will present that to you here shortly. We can find no record of a request to combine these tax parcels into a single tax parcel. We did reach out. There was a time when the Forsyth County Tax Assessor's Office did combine them, and we approached them. We said that's incorrect. It should not have happened. They agreed, and they resplit the parcels into their original configuration based upon the plat. But what we are requesting, the variances that are necessary, these lots, again, fall back into the lot lines that existed in 1955. At the time, you didn't have zoning in the city of Cumming. Zoning has obviously matured and been modified over the years. So even though we have the same zoning categories when the city adopted R1A, a lot of those performance standards have changed. So the variances that we've had to request are, you can see those side yard setbacks and the front yard setbacks. Importantly, where you see the asphalt drive, that is actually Park Street. And it was named because that's where the park was and still is. The plat that was recorded in 1955, this was the original configuration. The tracts that we're particularly interested in are lots 80, 81, and 82. And it's important that you remember those numbers, because as we went back and searched through the title records, what we found, the vesting deed that Mr. Granados acquired, you can see in bold print. It's specifically described as lots 80, 81, and 82. Going back to the grantor, MOWR Enterprises, their deed as well describes the property as lots 80, 81, and 82. The folks, as we go back further, there was a foreclosure deed. Again, lots 80, 81, 82. We're looking at a security deed that ended up, which resulted in the foreclosure. It describes the properties, again, as separate lots, never combined. There was a Marius Taverner who actually bought the property and held it for most of the time that it has been a subdivided lot. His property did actually have a description of all 3 properties as a single meets and bounds description, but it mirrored a grantee's deed, for this was his security deed, which again, it described it as lots 80, 81, and 82, and then had a meets and bounds description of the 3 lots. Tracing it back even further, back to 1965, we have another deed, lot 80, 81, 82, then 1964. This is as far back as I could get in the courthouse records. I could not, when I went through and started looking at the grantees index, I couldn't find it. But again, we're looking at a description at the tip top that says City of Cumming, Forsyth County, Georgia, being subdivision lots 80, 81, and 82, as shown on our original subdivision plat, recorded in Plat Book 2, page 7. You can tell by those numbers, this is an oldie. It goes back a ways. So we do absolutely have a hardship. So the variance criteria that you have in your code says there is extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to a particular piece of property. If I were in your shoes, I would be asking the question, if I grant this variance, is this going to open up the door for everybody else in the world to come in and get the same side yard setbacks? My response to you is, no, this is an exceptional circumstance because we have platted lots from the 1950s. If someone else can show grandfathered lots, then I think they'd be in a similar circumstance. But that's fairly rare. So I would put forward to you that this is an exceptional condition that would justify the variance. A literal interpretation of the provisions of these zoning regulations would create an unnecessary hardship. Yes, right now we have the literal interpretation of the code eliminates 2 lots, and I think we all know how valuable lots in the city of Cumming are. Number 3, granting the variance requested would not confer upon the property of the applicant any special privileges. We're not asking for anything more than what was platted by the city in 1955, which is 3 lots. So these would not be conferring special
Planted
privileges.
by the county.
Was it with the city?
The city wouldn't have platted it in 1955. We didn't have a planning and zoning board.
I guess that's true, Your Honor. Actually, I don't know how the process was done back then. I don't know if you would have had to come to the city. I know you didn't have planning and zoning, but you may have had a subdivision regulation. But I don't know the answer to that.
It was all county until the 90s.
Okay. Well, then, we'd respectfully, again, request that it still be honored. With that, number 4, reliefs in harmony with the purpose and intent of the regulations and would not be injurious to the neighborhood. As we showed, there are other lots the same size in this same platted subdivision. So this would not be a one-of-a-kind in what's left of the 1955 plat. Number 5, special circumstances were not the result of the actions of the applicant. Our client just bought 3 lots. That's what's been in the deed record for almost 70 years. So that is certainly not a consequence of his actions. Number 6, the variance requested is the minimum variance that would make possible the legal use of the land. This is the minimum requested necessary to be able to use 3 lots or develop 3 lots. Number 7, the variance is not a request to permit a use of land that are not permitted by right in the district involved. We're not asking for the ability to do commercial development. We're not asking to do multifamily. R1A allows single-family homes, and that's what we're asking to be able to use in this situation. Number 8, the extent to which the proposed zoning would result in the use, which will or cause excessive or burdensome use to existing streets or transportation facilities, schools, parks, or other public facilities. Respectfully, we're just asking to use, again, the same plan that's been in the land records for almost 70 years. And then last but not least, number 9, whether the zoning proposal is in conformity with the policy and the intent of the comprehensive plan, land use plan, or other adopted plans. I would submit that your land use plan does, or at least should, contemplate grandfathered lots. Does it comply with your current design standards? It does not. But this is a special exception. We are asking to recognize the grandfathering of these 3 lots and provide the relief to be able to develop those lots as platted. We do appreciate the circumstance you're in. I know, as I said, you're probably wondering, does this open up Pandora's box? I would say no, because we have such a unique circumstance. Variances do not have the same standards as zonings do. Zonings do create precedents, but a variance says, I'm special, I have very unique circumstances, and those don't necessarily apply to anybody else. That's the definition of a variance, and we have that in this situation. So I do hope that you would be willing to help our client out. He bought 3 lots. He thought he was buying 3 lots. He went to get permits, and he can't get permits. So with that, we would respectfully request your approval of these variances. Again, here's an aerial shot back showing those similar lots just 2 streets down. But we do need your relief for the variance on these. With that, we're happy to answer any questions. We'll reserve any time that we have remaining. Thank you.
Any questions for Ethan? Anyone else that'd like to speak in favor of this variance request? Anyone like to speak in opposition? I have a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Please vote. Motion carries 4-0. What's the pleasure of the council?
I'll make a motion to postpone this to the next meeting night, to
To the work session?
the
or-
work session.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Please vote. Motion carries 4-0. Now we have item 2, variance request 2024293.
I think he added all three together, didn't he?
Well, that's 3 different line items, so you can say it's the same thing I said a second ago if you want, Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Would like again to read the staff report on this variance request. One of our planning commissioners had to recuse from the vote on the variance, and given the nature of the variance, it's my determination and consideration of this application is in the public interest. Therefore, I'm transferring this decision to the mayor and council. Agent has made application on behalf of the property owner for multiple variances to a parcel located at 302 Patterson Street, which is zoned single-family residential R1A. Granting one variance would increase the residential density of this property analogous to that of a multiple family residential R3 lot. 2 other dimensional requirements of variance reductions are from 34 to 64% in accordance with section 113-50 of the zoning ordinance. Again, these variances are not de minimis. Failing to grant them would not create an unnecessary hardship or deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other property owners in the same area. There are no extraordinary or exceptional conditions pertaining to this piece of property warranting these variances. Granting these variances would not be in harmony with the purpose and intent of the R1A zoning district and could be detrimental to the general welfare of the neighborhood, including the adjacent property owners' values. In fact, granting the variance of this variance would allow construction resulting in a detached townhome or a multifamily product in the middle of a single-family detached home neighborhood, and for those reasons, staff recommends denial of the variances requested. Again, try to answer any questions.
I do have one, which it pertains to all 3, but it's showing the access to Lot 82 through what I'm going to assume is a right-of-way, but who owns that property?
Who owns the asphalt drive?
Right, which doesn't exist right now.
And it doesn't show ownership, so the assumption would be that it is some sort of right-of-way, but it's not specifically identified as an extension of Park Avenue.
So Ethan, do you know who owns the?
Our position is it was dedicated at the time the plat was recorded. So my understanding is that's a city street.
I mean, there's no street there, it's just dirt.
It's a city right-of-way.
Okay. Any other questions for Scott? We have a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Please vote. Motion carries 4-0. Anyone that'd like to speak in favor of variance request 2024293?
Your Honor, Ethan Underwood, will restate for the record, including our reservation of rights, all matters presented in the first public hearing.
Anyone else like to speak in favor? Anyone like to speak in opposition? I have a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Please vote. Motion carries 4-0. What's the pleasure of the council? We got to do it for all 3 of them.
I'll make a motion to postpone it to the work session.
Second.
Please vote. Motion carries 4-0. Item 3, variance request 2024291 for 302 Patterson Street, public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One more time. One of the planning commissioners had to recuse from this vote on the variance, and given the nature of the variance requested, my determination, consideration of the applications in the public interest, therefore I transferred its decision to the mayor and council. The agent has made application on behalf of the property owner to multiple variances to a parcel located at 302 Patterson Street, which is zoned single-family residential R1A. Granting one variance would increase the residential density of this property analogous to that of a multifamily residential R3 lot. Several other dimensional requirements, variance reductions range from 34 to 70% in accordance with Section 113-50. The zoning ordinances, these variances are not de minimis. The failure to grant them would not create an unnecessary hardship or deprive the applicant of the rights commonly enjoyed by other property owners in the same area. There are no extraordinary or exceptional conditions pertaining to this piece of property warranting these variances. Granting these variances would not be in harmony with the purpose and intent of the R1A zoning district and could be detrimental to the general welfare of the neighborhood, including the adjacent property owners' values. In fact, granting these variances will allow construction resulting in attached townhome multifamily product in the middle of a single-family detached home neighborhood. For the above-mentioned reasons, staff recommends denial of the variance as requested.
Any other questions for Scott? Have a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Please vote. Motion carries 4-0.
Mr. Mayor, city council members, I'm sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
Anyone like to speak in favor?
Sorry, we're trying to speed it along. Ethan Underwood, on behalf of the applicant, again, we restate for the record our presentation on item A1 as well as our reservation of rights. Thank you.
Anyone else that'd like to speak in favor? Anyone like to speak in opposition? Have a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Please vote. Motion carries 4-0. What's the pleasure of the council?
Make a motion to postpone it to the work session.
Second.
Please vote. Motion carries 4-0. Next, under new business, Park and Rec, item 1, RFP results for Dobbs Creek hardwood floor resurfacing project.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. I'm just going to do my spiel one time.
All right.
I'm here this evening for approval for the resurfacing of roughly 43,000 square feet of hardwood floor for the basketball gym at Dobbs Creek Recreation Center. We did put out bids. This bid did include repairing damaged wood floors due to water intrusion, putting extra volleyball anchors in another floor for extra practice courts. We're going to paint lines for volleyball, pickleball, and basketball. So it'll be permanent instead of having to use tape. That includes using water-based coat and sealer for that. They're going to sand it all the way down to bare wood and restart all over. This is going to take approximately 33 days, start July 26th and go through August 27th. So we will shut down the facility for that period of time to get this completed. So we did get numbers for that. Precision Momentum Contractors at a price of $95,700. Game Day Sports with a price of $97,700. CBA Sports with $115,578, and Extraordinary Ventures doing business as Black Eagle Construction for $132,235.50. It is my recommendation to use Precision Momentum Contractors for $95,700 for this project, and I'll be happy to answer any questions anybody have.
It says water intrusion over the years. Is that a roof leak or?
That's, well, roof leaks, doors, things like that. That has been taken care of. That was taken care of last year. So we tried to fix everything before we did all this, so we wouldn't have that problem.
This is in your budget for this year?
Yes, ma'am, it is in my budget.
Any other discussion? We have a motion.
Motion to approve this contract to Precision Momentum Contractors in the amount of $95,700.
Second.
Please vote. Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank
Item B, Administration. Item 1, 2025 General Liability Insurance Renewal Quotes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm sure you
They
wish
went
I
down
didn't.
this year.
I was going to say, I'm sure you wish I didn't have to give my spiel at all. But I'm happy to be here. It's good to see you all again. I am here to talk about your 4/1/25/26 property and casualty insurance renewal. As your broker, obviously, every year we go out to market and solicit quotes from multiple carriers, and we have done that this year too, and reached out to several markets that specialize in public entities. In doing so, there's 5 different carriers that we have approached that we discussed presenting an all lines quote, meaning all of your lines of coverage. We received a quote from Selective, who is your incumbent carrier. Travelers, who you've been with before, was very interested in getting you back. And then 3 others who have declined for various reasons. We also reached out to, I'll just tell you, that's WSI, which is Wright Specialty. They declined due to losses. Tokyo Marine declined because it's a little bit outside their appetite. We have some things here that they weren't really interested in insuring. We have the aquatic center and the fairgrounds, the rodeo, that kind of thing. So they declined. And then Gladfelter also declined due to losses. So we also reached out to Liberty Mutual, and although Liberty Mutual is an all-lines carrier, this year they said that they were only interested in looking at the casualty lines. They were not interested in quoting the property, which is odd because we've never had any property losses, but that's what they said. They did give an indication that for just the liability lines alone, they would be upwards of $750,000 to $800,000. So when we went to market and knew that Liberty Mutual would not be quoting the property, we also approached Chubb to get a monoline property quote, and they indicated they would be north of $300,000. So pairing those two together, we would be over $1 million in premiums. So, and then we also approached several markets for your cyber. We're going to stay with your incumbent because they were the lowest again this year, which is Cowbell. And King Group is your inmate medical carrier. They're your incumbent, so we're going to stay with them as well. So those are the markets that we approached. So with everything in mind, we are going to be focusing on Selective and Travelers tonight. So the first thing in your packets is your exposure increases, and I always like to show this because this has a big bearing on the increases that you might see this year. So going from what we started with at the beginning of 2024 to what we have now, we have some line items that factor into your rate increases. So the first line item is your budget. So we have an increase in your budget of $2,944,445. We have your full-time employees have increased by 12. Your Class A officers have increased by 4. Your water department payroll has increased by $563,534. The number of autos for liability have increased by 4. Your number of autos for comp and collision have increased by 7. And your building and contents values have increased from $224,409,874 to what Travelers is basing their quote on, which is $263,261,756. So that's an increase of $38,851,882. That figure actually includes some things that we added to the property policy this year. So one of those is the city center building, which is Building C. We took it off of the builder's risk when it was completed and moved it over onto the city's property policy. We also have 2 new water department buildings on Mountain Road. We have a new arena barn at the fairgrounds, and we have some increases in the replacement cost values on some of your existing buildings too that were applied by Travelers. And I'm saying Travelers because at the end of this, I will be recommending Travelers, and I think you'll see why when we finish. The last line item is inland marine, which it's just your owned equipment, and that remained the same. We haven't added anything. So based on your exposure increases, this and this next sheet kind of go hand in hand. So this is your summary sheet, the colored sheet. So the first row is your annualized premiums. So what we do is we take last year's rates and apply them to your new exposures for this year to get what your true expiring premium is. So with your permission, Mayor and Council, what I would like to do, instead of getting into everything having to do with the limits and deductibles, I'd like to first maybe just go through the premiums real quickly, because I think at the end, you'll see that some of the minor differences in limits and deductibles are not enough to offset the difference in premium. So we'll start with your general liability. Your annualized premium on your GL is $99,224. Selective came in at $302,495, and Travelers came in at $76,070. I will stop here for just a second because I just want to explain, when you're dealing with different insurance companies, some carriers have what I like to call heartburn for certain lines of coverage. So they may look at a certain line of coverage as being a problem area, and so their rates will be reflective of that. So I think you'll see when we're going through this, there's a lot of difference between some of the premiums by line of coverage, and it's simply because some carriers put more weight on certain lines of coverage than other carriers do. So, and the GL, that's indicative of what I'm talking about, because Selective is much, much higher than Travelers on the GL. We also have multiple large losses under the GL, and that's driving that 302 that Selective is quoting. But if you go down further, you'll come to the law enforcement liability. Our annualized premium for law is $26,937. Selective is at $25,713. And Travelers is at $64,950. Here again, Travelers is putting more weight on the possible exposure that we have through our law enforcement. Then if you come down, our public officials and employment practices are together because they're part of the same form. So we have our annualized premium is $46,789. Selective is at $69,611. Travelers is at $49,332. So if you turn the page, our auto liability premium, our expiring is $193,819. Selective is at $252,912. Travelers is at $234,218. The auto physical damage expiring is $27,690. Selective is at $35,976. Travelers is at $64,205. And then under the crime, we have expiring $2257. Selective is at $8,096. Travelers is at $1,170. And let's come on down to the property. Expiring is $310,420. Selective is at $355,390. Travelers is at $322,751. And then in a marine, we have $17,733 for expiring. Selective's at $19,068. Travelers is at $831. So the last page, we have your cyber liability. Your annualized premium for cyber is $1,394. Selective and Travelers came in at the exact same at $1,408. Then we come to your umbrella, which your umbrella is over your GL, your employee benefits liability, your auto, your law enforcement, your public officials, and your employment practices liability. Your annualized premium for your umbrella is $65,395, and this is an area that I feel like is very, very important in that Selective is no longer offering umbrella coverage. So, and a huge reason for that is what's going on in our court systems today, and I don't think it's any, surprise that we're having some major awards going to plaintiffs that's driving rates and driving carriers not to want to offer umbrella coverage anymore. Umbrella used to be a line of business that it was there in case you needed it, in case some random thing happened and you needed higher limits, but it was not something that you saw claims bleed into very often. Now, with what's going on in the court system and we're having what we call nuclear verdicts, a lot of these umbrella policies are getting tapped into, so carriers are not as willing to write umbrella coverage as they used to be. So Selective is not doing that anymore. And that's huge, because I would not recommend, with what's going on this day and time, not to have an umbrella policy. Travelers is quoting the umbrella, and they're at $76,139. So all in, your totals for your annualized premium, you were at $796,801. Selective came in at $1,075,813. That represents a 35% increase, which, just being honest, that's a lot of what we are seeing right now. We're seeing 35 to 50% increases across the state of Georgia right now. So I wasn't surprised by that, disappointed, but not surprised. Travelers, however, came in at $896,218. That's a 12% increase, which I think is very, very good considering what's going on right now. So I would definitely recommend Travelers, not only because I don't feel like the differences in any of the coverages that are being offered are worth paying an additional $179,000 to stay with Selective, and I also think the umbrella is crucial. One more thing, just for your consideration, right now you're carrying a $1,000 comp and collision on your auto. That's really, really low, and a lot of our insureds are at least $5,000 for comp and collision. So I went back to both carriers and asked them what the return premium would be if we went from a $1,000 deductible to a $5,000 deductible. And Travelers, the return premium would be $23,871. So if you wanted to up your comp and collision deductible, that would reduce your premium by $23,871. So based on that, I am recommending Travelers tonight. Does anyone have any questions?
Then you can also do another 15,000 on the flood coverage.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, I like to show the flood separately too. I don't know that I would recommend not doing the flood. I know we just had that massive storm and didn't have any issues, but for 15,000, I don't know. I kind of lean towards having flood in place in case you need it, but certainly your call. That's another 15,000 savings if you don't, but.
I know that we've had at least a 50-year rain, and it never came within 25 feet of the building.
Right. Well, and certainly your call. I'm in insurance, so of course I always lean to the side of caution. But it's completely your call, and you're exactly right. It's another 15,000 in savings if you did that.
Because the deductible, without it's $250,000.
Well, okay, so.
That's what I'm reading.
So what I wanted to show you separately on this one, so your flood and your, let me get to your property. So yes, your deductible for your flood and your earthquake is $50,000, but on those 4 city center buildings, the deductible for the flood and earthquake are $250,000. So it's just for those 4 buildings. Everything else, it's $50,000. And that's what it was last year, too. That didn't change.
Right.
And that is another area that Travelers did insure, some of the city center buildings, a lot of them, and some of the other buildings as well that Selective did not insure for flood, that Travelers did. So there are some differences there, too.
Any other questions?
The automobile physical damage,
Yes.
that's covering the PD's vehicles as well,
Yes, it is. Yes, sir.
which I would assume are probably most likely to get damaged.
Yes, yes. Yes, but see, over on the right where it's talking about the deductible for physical damage, right now your deductible with Selective is 500 comp, 1,000 collision, whereas with Travelers it's just 1,000. But I did want y'all to see what kind of savings it would be if you bumped that to 5.
Right.
The other thing that would do too would be to help you on your loss ratio if you basically self-insured that first 5,000 layer. Because I know a lot of times if you're having like little fender benders here and there that maybe are over the 1,000, but not much over the 1,000, that loss is going on to your loss history and it's showing up under your, frequency too. Whereas if you had a 5,000 deductible, you would not be reporting anything probably that was under 5,000.
Do we have many claims for vehicles?
Yes, we have had some claims for the vehicles, yes. Let me see here, I can tell you. I brought this with me in case somebody asked that question. So I will say this, just briefly, on the general liability, and again, what's driving the GL up so high. Right now, you have a 242% loss ratio on your GL over the last 5 years, so that's very, very high. 0 on your property, we have not had, which, to your point, Mayor, we have not had any property losses. On your auto liability, we're at 57% loss ratio, so carriers obviously want to see that, under 50%. And on the auto physical damage coverage, to answer your question, we're at 54% loss ratio. So it is, it is up there. But everything else looks great. The public officials, we're only at 15%. Employment practices is at 0. Law enforcement's at 27%, cyber is 0, and your umbrella is 0. So the problem areas are your GL and your auto.
Any other questions? Well, I would recommend the return premium on the automotive physical damage to up it to 5,000 and also delete the flood coverage, which would save 38,871. What's the pleasure of the council?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve Travelers' insurance premium with the deleted physical, or the deleted flood coverage, and the return premium on the automobile by raising the deductible to 5,000. I'm not sure the amount that comes to.
Is it the 865, 795 for both of those?
So the 865, 795 was just for the travelers lines only, so you would have to add back the inmate medical and the cyber. So where you would be, if you did the 23,000 all in, would be 872, 347, and then you would delete the 15,000 from that. 857, I'm sorry, say that again.
857, 847.
Okay.
857, 847.
If I'm off by $1,
All right.
I'm
In the
sorry.
amount of
I should have done that myself before I got up here as far as the flood. I did the math with the comp, but forgot to do the flood, so.
The amount would be 857, 347.
847,
847?
yeah.
Oh, 847, 347.
No.
857, 847.
847.
847.
847.
Okay.
Oh, well, that's.
847. 857, 847.
Here, I'll make the motion.
Somebody else want to make a motion?
Who's got it?
I second.
Please vote. Motion carries 4-0, 5727. Just kidding.
Hey,
I got
Right,
it.
next is
I got it,
service-
Mayor.
Service delivery strategy.
Thank you all.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, before you tonight is a service delivery strategy Form 1 to submit to the Department of Community Affairs. This is related to water and wastewater services between the City of Cumming and Forsyth County. As you know, service delivery strategy agreements are out there to make sure that we don't duplicate services between our two governments. This doesn't change anything with respect to the way that services are handled between our two governments. All the same agreements are still in place. The only request is because the county wants to use insurance premium taxes, which is a source of general fund revenue, as part of how they pay for water and wastewater services. And that's it. It doesn't affect us at all in terms of our service areas, the agreements we have with them, water we sell them, raw water we sell them, or wastewater capacity. Happy to answer any questions if you have any. I'll start off by saying no, I don't know why, but it doesn't affect us in terms of how they pay for their services.
Any questions for Kevin? Any discussion? Do we have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the service delivery strategy as presented.
Have a second? Do we have a second? Second. Please vote. Motion carries 4-0. Announcements, there are none. Executive session.
Yes, sir, for real property acquisition pending and threatened litigation.
We have a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Please vote. Motion carries 4-0. Thanks, everyone, for coming.
Yeah.
We had a motion to close executive session.
Second.
Please vote. Motion carries 4-0. We have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Please vote. Motion carries 4-0.
We always save that one for Chad.
Yeah.